Welcome, impactful parents. Today we're going to be talking about parents of trans kids and an interview with Elon Musk talking about his trans daughter. Hello, my name is Kristina Campos. I'm founder of The Impactful Parent, and I help parents of school-aged children who want to stay one step ahead of their kids to turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I'm a mom of four, a teacher that has taught every grade from preschool through high school, and today I help moms and dads like yourself to navigate that exhausting, confusing, frustrating, but rewarding world of parenting. So welcome to The Impactful Parent. And today I have my co-host with me, Rodrigo Bravo. Rodrigo is a co-parenting mediator out of the state of Texas. He's a parenting coach, and he's a dad of two boys. Rodrigo brings a dad's perspective onto the Impactful Parent stage to give you even more expertise and an added perspective on our parenting topics. And this one today touches home for me. It's going to be a rough one. I'm excited to talk about it with Rodrigo, though, because he brought this subject to the table, and it's definitely something that we need to talk about. So thank you for being here.
No, well, I thank you for the opportunity, as always, to be part of the Impactful Parent, your audience, and your platform. And I immediately thought about you with this particular video. I thought the video was very insightful and really told me a lot about who Elon Musk is and how he's really kind of following the same footsteps that a lot of parents follow whenever they are, dealing with this issue. So I think it's a great video to kind of dissect and, give our opinion on.
So as a background, I am a parent of a trans son, and Rodrigo is LGBTQ friendly with his son being gay and actually does drag too. It's not quite the same as being trans, but you definitely get to see your son dress up in more of a female perspective, and we've talked consistently on here about being allies to the LGBTQ community. My experience when I talk today is going to be from my personal experience. I'm not I just want to clarify that I'm not educated in how to be a trans parent. I just am a trans parent. I am a parent of a trans child. I've been through that. I've done it, and I can speak to that. And I'm excited to talk about Elon's perspective on this because he's obviously very disheartened and hurting inside. So here's where this came from. We're going to show you this video between Elon Musk and Jordan Peterson, where, if you don't know Jordan Peterson, he is a very famous psychologist who talks on a variety of subjects, including parenting. And billionaire Elon Musk, he has this estranged trans daughter. Her name is Vivian Jenna Wilson, and she completely disowned him, actually. She doesn't want to have anything to do with her dad. And her story on social media posts are something that you can look up if you're interested. She speaks openly about not liking her dad and his views on trans and the subject in general. So let's run to the video so everybody can see what we're going to be talking about today.
It happened to one of my older boys, where I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier. This is before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and so there was a lot of confusion. I was told, Xavier might commit suicide if he did.
That was a lie right from the outset.
Incredibly evil, and I agree with you that people that have been promoting this should go to prison.
That's
so I
personal
was tricked into doing this, it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. Anyway. And so I lost my son, essentially. They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
All right, so the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would be like.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and there's lots of people in that situation now.
right.
It's not pretty, and lots of demolished kids.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a good reason to be the final straw. All right, so let's.
So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that. And we're making some progress.
Join the club.
Yeah.
Okay, Rodrigo, I'm going to let you take it off first. What were your first thoughts when you saw this video?
When I saw the video, it struck me, and I wrote a tweet about it. I actually quote tweeted it, and I even said I really felt bad for him. I could look at him, see his eyes, and just understand, like, yeah, he's struggling with this. I've seen it with my clients before, where they kind of I said it in a tweet, where they lose control of the narrative they want for their kids. He makes some other comments there, but that was really my initial first impressions. I was really kind of like, wow, he hasn't really had time, I guess, to process it on a real level. It's been a while, from my understanding. I don't know the specifics of it, but it's already been quite a bit since that time frame happened. But even so, he's still very much affected by it. What were your thoughts, Kristina, when you first saw it?
This guy's in pain. Yeah, same. He is emotionally in pain over this. And at the same time, I don't feel like he it doesn't feel like he's making moves to change that. So it was kind of frustrating for me as I watched it. I wanted to be like, well, it's some of these views that you have. I could see he's very black and white. This is it. He's really blaming woke culture for his for the transition of his son to a daughter. And he you get so frustrated and so worried. And so there's so many emotions when it comes to your child transitioning, like a million, like every emotion you can think of, that you do look for something and someone to blame. You do. I mean, and that is natural. I do feel that is not you, whether it's their friends, it's their school. Oh, their school is talking about it too much. It's their peers are encouraging them to do this. And like, you look for, why did this happen? And you sometimes have to look inside too. It isn't me. What did I do this? And I think a lot of parents blame themselves. Elon, he blames woke culture and he's stuck with that. And that makes him feel a little bit better to have something to point at and something to blame. And it just makes me sad for him that he's not trying to get out of that. So that showed me that he's not trying to get out of he's not trying to work on that feeling. Instead, he's going to sit in the more comfortable blame area. And that's part of the whole mourning process of this, of, going through it, or whatever that parents go through. I called it mourning just then because a lot of trans parents refer to it as a mourning period, including Elon in this video. He talks about the death of his son. I will say right now that I understand that perspective and I get it. For yourself as a parent, it is sometimes way easier to literally let that person, that son or daughter that is no longer to, I don't want to say die because I hate that, but there is a death there, a mourning period of who you thought that person was, all those expectations you had, and so you do have to let that go and mourn it so that you can welcome something different that's coming into your life, right? Or that's already is, but you're accepting it. You just didn't realize it was there to begin with the whole time, really. And I just see that it's he's stuck in some of these stages that he needs to process and get through, and he's definitely in the middle of it, and he just can't push forward anymore. I hope he gets some help because there's definitely ways he can resolve some of these issues that he has, and I just don't feel like he's there. And it's too bad because Jordan Peterson's an amazing psychologist, and I don't know. One interview is not really going to be that helpful, but I hope maybe he sees somebody who would help him. And going back to that mourning thing, before I forget, when even though I also had to go through that and kind of mourn the child and expectations I had, when I mentioned that to my trans son, that there was the death of who they are, the dead name of who they are, it's all very, our terminology for it is very like something died. My son hates that. He hates it. To him, he's like, no, I didn't die. I'm freaking right here. You just haven't opened your eyes to see me. And it's really the perspective I get from him as he talks about this. And I don't blame him for feeling that way. And to be honest, I think that Elon's daughter feels much of the same way, because you'll see comments on that post, even by her saying something, referring to the dead name and stuff that her dad says. And she's very argumentative with it. Like, no, I'm here. I've been here the whole time.
I think that's a great point. And I think one of the ways that I was kind of able to detect that he's still struggling with that was the use of his trans daughter's dead name. And he uses it quite a bit. That was another thing that struck me when I first saw it. I thought there was a kind of a passive aggressiveness, and I wouldn't even call it passive. It's just aggressive. When you talk about it that way, he knows how that's going to affect her, but he doesn't care. He still uses it. He's adamant about using it. The last point that I'll make about my initial reactions was the way he talked about his daughter, the suicide ideation, and also the transitioning and the paperwork. It had such a distance between him and his child. I immediately knew that they were estranged. I'm gonna admit to you, I didn't know anything about this. Again, I don't really follow Elon Musk like that. I get the headlines and the bits and whatnot, and I've seen some stuff, right? Okay, whatever. But I didn't know anything about his personal life. I knew the most that I knew was that he was with Grimes at one point, and that was just because of music, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting, this and that. I went through a rabbit hole after this came out, and I learned everything there was personal. Terrible. But I didn't know anything of this, but I was able to immediately detect that he and his child were estranged. I could immediately, I already knew, and that was not just based on my, spidey senses as a parent, or my me being part of, the LGBTQ community and knowing that experience of, being a parent in that community, or even my clients. I just knew. I immediately felt that. And so when I looked it up and I found out that, yes, they are estranged, and then she made some additional comments on Threads, which I thought is really funny because that's the Twitter competitor. I'm sorry, X. It's now named X, formerly known as Twitter, but that's the competitor, right? So she's there and she makes her comments there. I immediately knew that there was a lot more to it, and that he was possibly not putting in the work to come to terms with it. Not necessarily make it right, because I don't think he's there yet, but at least coming to terms with it. And I know that you and I have had this conversation before, where, in my experience, raising a son who was counter to my experience, my what I grew up as, I had time. I had a lot of time to adjust for that. And I was willing to adjust. One of the comments that his daughter made was, she remembers when they were young, I think 6 or 7 or 8 or something, and she remembers Elon chastising her for being too effeminate, for being too much of a girly, and this and that. And so I guess in my sense, I'm saying, okay, he had all this time to kind of prepare for something, right? And maybe he didn't take the time to do that. So he still very much chose the path that he's on. I know that for you, that was that was a lot different than my experience. I know we've talked about it. Maybe you could share a little bit about that and how that kind of suddenness really kind of caught you off guard and how you had to deal and handle with that.
Yeah, I did not have the gradual thing. It was very abrupt for me. My biologically born daughter, I would not have called her a tomboy per se, even growing up. And you would think that would be a precursor, you know? And it just shows that not always. um, my son has a completely different definition of what masculinity is to him than the norm of society. And in his definition, he is extremely secure in who he is. And so, um, when you try to fit that round peg in the square hole, it's like, of course it's not gonna fit and people are gonna, and so and it can be tough to accept because you got again, it all goes back to those expectations you have as a parent. I expect that I'm gonna have my daughter is going to have weddings and dresses and we're gonna, it's gonna be all about makeup and hair and all these things. And you expect that your boy is going to be an athlete or some kind of academic scholar, or, whatever. Like you got these things in your head about who you think you're raising. And when all of it crumbles down and all of a sudden it's not coming out the way you thought it was gonna, it's really, I don't know why it's so hard to accept, but it is. And I can say that even as a parent who's very accepting. It's still hard to accept that how you wanted this to go is not how it's gonna go. And I think it comes down to control too. So not
Mhm.
only expectations, but our parents, um, wanting to control what is happening, wanting to and we don't have any control. We want the people who still want the control wanna suppress it, and we can't control it, including Elon. And as a man of extreme power, he has a lot of control in his life. And this is something he does not. And I bet it drives him freaking mad. It
Yeah.
is so hard for somebody with that much control 99% of the time to look at the 1% and get obsessed with it. I mean, to me, it's like, yeah, you could see it from the outside. It's pretty obvious.
I love that you said that. I love that you said control because that's really what it is. It's a lack of control on an individual level, like Elon, yourself, myself, right? And then on a societal level, where folks, are no longer controlled by society standards. Where people were once persecuted for who they are, where they were literally killed for who they are, and now folks have the liberty to be who they are. I don't, I don't know if society has 100% accepted them, but at least in our society we've determined like, hey, we don't really care. And I think that's where you could kind of tell the difference between my Elon and yourself and myself, that we, of course, we care about our kids, but how do you go about that, knowing that you've lost control of the narrative, if you lost control of what you think things should go? And I thought, for my initial reaction to the video, that's exactly what I thought of, and that's exactly what I said on the tweet. You know, that he no longer controls the narrative, and he's probably just kind of, you know, losing it over that. And I think that leads me to the rest of the video, right? So the rest of the video, Elon talks about the experience. He talks about being tricked into signing paperwork because he thought, well, I thought it was COVID paperwork. And then turns out that it was puberty blockers. And then I didn't know because I was told that there was suicide ideation going on, this and that. There was no clarity really in what really happened. And look, I'm not saying like he has to share everything, but whenever you share something like that and you don't provide those details, well, people are going to fill them in, right? And I find it very hard to believe. I'm just going to be straight up honest. Very hard to believe that a man that is worth billions of dollars and that signs, you know, contracts with the government and does, you know, this and does that, isn't reading the fine print, you know, when it comes to this type of things. Now, I will say this, maybe he didn't read the fine print because he didn't care. That's different, you know. And now he's trying to spin it. I don't know which case it is, but I do know that I do know that if you are involved in your child's life, I don't think you would take that lightly. You know, I don't think that would be something that you would just kind of haphazardly sign away or something like that. And that continued the whole estrangement that I felt that was going on. You know, like if your child is going through this and you don't really know what's going on, then there's a strain in the relationship. Your child doesn't feel comfortable, you know, communicating with you. And I, you know, I, I think for parents like ourselves that have gone through this, and we try to help other parents that are going through it, I think it's really important to emphasize something that you just said right now earlier, which is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. You just have to come to terms that things are not going to make sense to you sometimes, and that you're not going to understand, but you still want to be a part of your child's life. You're going to do everything you can to understand that. And so I thought that was interesting that particular point was something that he really kind of focused on. And I thought it was kind of, you know, just strange that a person like that would not read the fine print. I don't know what you thought about that.
Yeah, Rodrigo, the minute he started talking about how he didn't know what the paperwork said, I admittedly inside of my head said bullshit. Like I really did. Because the couple things what might have happened, like if that's true, then you either didn't read it at all, weren't listening to the doctors at all, or weren't in those doctors' rooms, or somebody, and it wasn't the doctors, whoever your interpreters for all that was, whether it's your contract guy who reads all your contracts, didn't relay the message over, but then that's on that guy, you know, like something, there was a disconnect. In more reality, like I was thinking, there's just no way. Doctors, they tell you. I was in that room and I heard it. What the hormones did. And yeah, it made my stomach go like this and go to the very bottom to my feet. But I knew, and I had to, with my ex-husband, sit and make a really difficult decision about that when I also had a child begging for help with hormones, and me as a parent not feeling very comfortable with signing that off. Um, and that was a huge struggle, and just one of the many, many hard decisions that I had to go through the transitioning process. Just to let everybody know, 'cause they're probably wondering, well, what did she do? What felt comfortable for me is I could not live with signing the paper. I'm just going to be honest with that. I read those fine prints and I knew what the permanency of what some of the things were going to do to my child. And I did not feel comfortable. I couldn't do it. I felt horrible about it. So I went to my child and said, I support you and who all of you are. I can't feel good about this. I can't sleep at night knowing I signed off on this when I know from my own experiences that the choices I made when I was 16 are not the choices I make now at 47. And there are things I did when I was younger that I wish I could undo. So I just, I took my child being really angry with me because, again, I do what is best for my child for the best of my ability, even if they're angry, because that's just how parenting is. And I said, "With the minute you're 18, it's up to you. And I'm going to support you throughout this journey, no matter what your decisions are. So the minute you're 18, it's up to you. Before that, I can't. I can't sign off and feel good about it and sleep at night. This has to be your choice, not mine. And until you're 18, it's not your choice." So that's kind of the impasse that me and my child went through. Um, and sure enough, at the minute that they turned 18, they did start taking their hormones, and they're very happy to this day. So um, it was a good choice for that for him. Did I make the right choice? I don't know. All this, being a parent is all full of these kinds of, I'm not too sure if I did the right thing for my kid. You just do what you can. And that was one of the hard decisions. But going back to Elon.
Wait. Hold on. I just gotta say that
Yeah.
that was powerful. I didn't even know that myself. That whole wow. That must have been tough. And I know you're the biggest advocate of all your children, and I'm the same way. But the way you kind of the way you characterized everything that occurred, the way you just said right now, it was both beautiful and powerful and just tough. I just can't imagine myself going through that.
Yeah.
But for you to say that and share that, I think um, I think that's a great contrast to Elon, because both of y'all basically did the opposite, but for opposite reasons.
Mhm.
And he wrote it because either he didn't care, he didn't bother to read it, and didn't invest time, right? And you didn't sign it because you did invest time and you did read it and you didn't agree to it and you did care. It's such
Yeah.
a wild contrast because you would think it would be the other way around, that somebody doesn't read it, doesn't, this and that, so I'm not gonna sign it. And somebody reads it, and then they sign it, because, oh, I want to do what's best for my child and this and that. But you actually said, hey, I gotta live with this myself. At that point, we are still responsible for our kids.
Yeah.
And we're not just making decisions for our kids, but we're also making decisions that we have to live with. And at that point, again, you're making the best decision that you can under those circumstances, under, you trying to figure out what's good, what's bad, what can, and so forth. And I think it's just something. I don't know. I just right now, just listening to you, I don't think I can recall a moment that I went through during my parenting journey that was similar. I like I said earlier, our paths differ in the sense of I had a ton of time that I kind of prepared myself for my son coming out. Uh, when he came out, to him it was a huge deal. I didn't take anything away from it, but for me, I knew this. I figured it out. I was like, okay, and this and that, so forth. But I never had to make like a decision where I had to really like counter who I am and go against my gut and maybe even hurt my child in that sense. So I just wanted to stop you there and just commend you for that, because I think that's something that parents really need to hear, because they think that even our like folks like ourselves just breeze through life, just, oh, we got the answers to everything. We struggle with this stuff as well, and we've come out through it, I feel like, better people, in the sense that we've learned through it and we're trying to share with folks. And I think a lot of folks that do go through this, that have similar experiences, or maybe even just are dealing with kids, don't realize that parents go through so many different things and magnitudes and degrees of pain and circumstance that sometimes we don't know what to do. And the only thing you can do is, again, reiterate what you said earlier: be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because at the end of the day, you can't control everything, and you're not trying to control everything, but you definitely, for your own sake, are trying to control certain things. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did want to just throw that in there before it just kind of kept going. But you were going to say about Elon.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that too, because it was very, very difficult. One of the more difficult things I had to do in my parenting. And I feel like a lot of parents get so scared that their child is not going to be happy with them, and that hurts the relationship. Um, and and it's tough. It's hard to have somebody you live with constantly angry with you, and beyond just being a normal teenager, like angry that you're holding back a decision that they want. I mean, it's really tough. Um, but I that's where I went. That's where I had to do. That was my journey. So, but yeah, with Elon, so this is my question to you, Rodrigo, because Elon's personal experience with his trans daughter, well, it's shaped his perspective on gender identity and definitely on woke culture because he blames it. So, my question is, what are the potential ethical implications of such a high profile figure like Elon Musk discussing his family's personal experiences like this in this public domain that he has? Like, it seems like public figures like him, they have responsibilities for discussing these type of sensitive topics like gender identity and societal dynamics, and because they do create a huge influence and ripple effect across America. I just feel like, what are your thoughts on that this conversation is going to have? What kind of ripples is he making?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, because we have to recognize a platform that he has. He owns X, right? Twitter, and he's constantly making tweets. And I'm so sorry. I mean, well, I'm not really sorry, but I keep saying Twitter. It is Twitter to me. X. I don't know what they call it now. What X posts or whatever, right? But anyways, he does have a huge platform, and he uses it, and he wields it, and he tweets about stuff, and he definitely has followers, people that really do follow him, admire him, etc. And I feel really, really just disappointed that this narrative he's creating is going to be a strong narrative that's going to exist, and also validate narratives that already exist for folks that are out there that think this way as well. I think it is very immature, it's an easy cop out to blame it on the woke virus, right? To say, oh my God, my child is a victim of society and this and that. It's a cop out. It's actually very weak, and it shows an inability to cope with the situation. But him saying that somewhat validates it for other people. They're just looking for confirmation bias. And if you have, the richest man in the world, on the platform, basically confirming your own negative, polarizing views, it's reaffirming. You're going like, oh yeah, that's right. This and that. And so for me, my fear is the parents of LGBTQ teens, and the parents of trans teens, kids, and just trans people and LGBTQ members at large. When he's talking about this in such a way that their lifestyles are more a product of influence than who they are, I think that's a very dangerous thing to do, especially because a lot of these parents are still going through their struggle, and they see how he handles it, and they say, well, look, if it's good for him, it's good for me. And I will tell you this right now, no, absolutely not. What he's going through is not the correct path. I'll say this, I'll end it right here and then maybe get your thoughts. You right now, your example right now actually is probably the best example that in best case that you could make for still making a choice that you're leading as a parent without sacrificing your own thought process. Right? A lot of people think it's a zero sum. Hey, you know what? Accept me for who I am, and 100% and this and that. And I'm the same way. I accept my son, but at the same time, I'm a parent, and I have to live with my own choices as a person, as a human being. And right now, the way you just eloquently kind of painted this picture of you struggling with this decision and then making that decision, I think that's a much better representation of how to handle these things and how to go about making sure that you support your child, support yourself, and be in an environment that's going to be productive and still maintain a healthy relationship. I don't know, what do you think about that?
I don't understand. I don't understand when people blame woke culture the way he does. But I understand why people do it, because it's going back to, we got to blame something. I need to feel like I have to blame it, because if I could blame something, then I can fix it. And that goes back to the control. Like, if I can fix it, then I can control it. And he's made that even declaration. I am going to fight against woke culture. That's my mission from here on out. Like, he's trying to gain back control so bad. And really, it's all misplaced. And so it just frustrates me when I see a parent like that hurting so badly, and he's just lost. He's not even in the right direction of where he should be focusing, or even looking for blame. Honestly, he probably should be looking more inward on the kind of relationship he had with his daughter for the many years, and some of the things maybe he said or didn't say, or supported or didn't support, and that's going to be really, really hard to do. Nobody likes to look inward. And that, again, goes back to his relationship with his daughter. It's nothing to do with whether his daughter is trans or not. That there's no blame. He didn't make his daughter trans because of what he said or what he didn't say. But the pain comes from the relationship that he doesn't have anymore. And he just can't focus on it. Instead, he has to blame all these other outside forces, and I'll blame that, and this will be my mission. And what about focusing on your daughter and creating a relationship again?
That is a fantastic point, and I hope people pick that up. If you just get rid of his focus, which is his child transitioning, right? Let's just talk about him not having a relationship with his child. Get rid of the external, I don't want to say external issues, but get rid of the what you're focused on, what you're just centered on and taking aim at. Get rid of that. What about just having a relationship with your child? And going back to Vivian, she's made quite a few remarks and has now kind of publicly, I guess I would say, exposed the relationship that Elon Musk has with not only her, but with also her twin brother, her siblings, and other children that Elon Musk has. I think Elon has 12 kids or 13 kids or something like that.
Oh, I don't know how many.
Yeah. So he has like 12 or 13 kids. I believe with 3, possibly 4 different women. And Vivian is talking about how he's estranged from many of them and in these custody battles and doing all this other stuff. And the reason I bring that up is because I just when I see the estrangement, and then I see the tweets that she tweets about, and then Elon's one of Elon's I guess the mother of Elon's kids made a public plea on X, on Twitter, asking, "Hey, can we have the kids back? Because my mom is passing away soon." And I don't know what happened with that. That was never really addressed. And then the last point is Grimes, the artist. She has, I believe, 2 kids with him. They're now involved in a custody battle as well, and there's some estrangement going on there. Anyways, the whole point of everything is like, to me, is I think it's something to. I think it's easier to blame some type of force, some external thing that's going on, as opposed to looking inward and doing the work that you need to do to fix yourself, to really fix your relationship with your kids. When I found out all of that, and I kind of revisited this video, I said, "Oh my God, this just looks like a pattern now.
Mhm.
That, hey, if things don't go wrong, boom, I leave this kid behind. I move on to the next kid. This kid doesn't work out, okay." And I'm not saying that's what's happening, but from what I can see, from what I've read, and the narratives that I get from all the other people, everybody involved, that's really what it seems like. Like, it's just going from one kid to the next, from one relationship to the next, trying to, I don't know, create the perfect kid or something. I don't know what that's going on there, but it takes a lot of work to fix yourself. And it seems like he's not willing to do that in order to have a healthy and productive relationship with any of his kids, let alone Vivian and so forth. So I think that's a great point that you make, that, let's, even if you were to, quote unquote, look past this, there's still this underlying tone of estrangement and not working on yourself to better the relationship that you have with your kids.
And I had to do a lot of that. So I want to make that clear. It took me a while to get on the trans train, and support it. It did. It hit me like a blindsided bag of bricks, and I wasn't expecting all the turbulence that was gonna about to come into my life. Um, and you do come to a crossroads as a parent of, am I going to be supportive or am I going to fight this? And you make that choice, and you can always change your mind. Like, right? You could start being against it, and you can change your mind. I feel like, it's never too late. But it's so much, it's so hard to take that path of being open and accepting and willing to hear. And this could be something, I could have done things wrong in the past. I can't tell you how many times I thought about all the things I might have done wrong in the past. And I don't want to say to cause my child of being trans, because that's not even it. But things that I might have said that just in the past or done in the past that could have hurt my kid because I didn't know that they were trans, that kind of stuff. And everything, you go through so much in your brain. It's exhausting. It's exhausting as a parent to do all this work. And the easy path is to do the blame game like Elon is doing. And I don't blame him for taking that path, because I can see it's the easy path and it's all he knows and he just wants control. But it's not necessarily the right path. And it's you can tell by the way he's hurting. I could tell that's not the path for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't care. If it didn't matter to him, then maybe I'd feel differently about his choice. But he's obviously hurting. So this can't be this couldn't have been a good choice for him, because of all the pain he's experiencing. And all that pain, you still feel it when you're going through all this process of learning to accept and open up and see different perspectives and tracing back every step that you might have done in the past. Like, you are going to experience all that pain, but at least at the other end of that, you have hopefully a relationship with your child still. And Elon cannot say the same. And same with many other parents who choose to take this other path because, well, frankly, their child is going to reject them for them rejecting them. It goes back and forth. You don't accept me. You hear it all the time. So, yeah, the whole thing is very sad to me, Rodrigo.
I think kids, teens, our children will show us grace. They will allow us to mess up as long as they know that we're moving in a way that is, intentional and from the heart, and that we're trying to improve. And I think a lot of parents don't realize that. I really think a lot of parents, they don't want to screw up. They want to be accepting, but they also don't want to feel that wrath and this and that. Well, you know what? I shouldn't say wrath. They don't want to feel that bite back, if you will, right? They don't want to mess up and then screw up. Oh, like this. It happens. It happens as parents. As long as we're moving in a loving way, unconditionally, and really trying to support our kids, they'll accept us, and they'll make grace for us because they know that their lens is not our lens. They'll know that they're experiencing life in a totally different way than we are, and they'll make accommodations for that. So I think it's super important that you share your story and that I share a story, because I don't want parents to kind of go down this road that Elon is going and not have a relationship with their child. Every kid deserves to have their parents. That's just bottom line. I get it. Some parents are terrible. Some parents, this and that. They need to fix themselves. Got it. But this is a journey, and we don't reach people when they're at their destination already. Most of the time, we reach people when they're in their journeys. And so we can't expect people to be perfect. We can't expect people to have all the right answers, say all the right things. But what we can expect is for people to move with love and to be supportive and to come with the intentionality of trying to understand. And at the very end, if they don't understand, at least be comfortable with not understanding. That's okay too.
I think I want to end with my final thoughts on this because I want to make sure that the message out there to parents is that this journey is definitely not easy. And we all are just stumbling along trying to do our best. Um, and I want parents to know that there are people out there like us. I have all kinds of videos inside the Impactful Parent app, not all kinds, but definitely a handful. Um, Parents going through LGBTQ things that I hope that you can take a look at, use as a resource. Rodrigo and I are both here for coaching services. It's so nice to surround yourself in an environment of at least one or two people, even if you have to pay them as a coach, just to hear everything that's going on, to have that release of, this is what's happening. Tell me, give me some guidance. Am I doing this right? Am I not doing this right? Just somebody to bounce ideas off of, just to, that's really invaluable going through this process. And I would guarantee that I don't think Elon had any of that. Otherwise, I don't think he would be where he is. So if parents are listening to this and they're resonating with our episode, you're not alone. The crazy and the unpredictableness and the anxiety and the worry and all of the things, so normal. Find a little somebody, one or two people that you can talk to, because it's going to make this journey so much easier in the long run. Even if it's just a venting session, a friend, anything. You need that support as a parent so that you can grow through this, because you will need to grow through this. You're not going to be able to be the same parent you were before this started. I am not anywhere close to the parent I was when my child was, I'd say 13 years old. And then today, when they have now completely transitioned and are in a different place. So I've learned so much through this process about myself, about who I am, about what I believe in, about my child. And I'm grateful for it. I can even say I'm grateful for it. I'm a way better person now. And I hope that other parents can go through that journey and get to this place too. Start your Impactful Parent journey by downloading the Impactful Parent app. The Impactful Parent app is free so that you can carry help, tips, and parenting resources right in your pocket. Download the app today. You got nothing to lose since it's free, and you can get it on your phone's app store. So search Impactful Parent and I'll be there. If you would like to reach out to Rodrigo Bravo for his co-parenting mediation and coaching services, you can email him at rodrigobravo.jr@gmail.com. And then remember that this episode is just a small part of what the Impactful Parent offers. Also available are online courses, parent support groups, coaching services, and, of course, the Impactful Parent app. So go to theimpactfulparent.com to find out more. But until next time, you got this. I'm just here to help.